excited. I think it's gonna be good.
Hey everybody, my name is Sean Kanungo, and you're watching another episode of Dangerous Ideas. This is a podcast where we break down ideas and frameworks that will change your life. It might change your business, your career, and your life. I break down a whole bunch of different concepts, and then we try to weave in some things that are related to social media, and I'm really excited today to have a couple different guests. And by the way, you might be hearing a baby in the background. That's actually my nephew, Luca. He's here in the studio, and it's such a pleasure and a treat to have him. So like in Timbaland when they had like the baby in the background crying on the beats, that's going to be like this. It's going to be amazing. It's going to have a podcast. It's the first time ever that you have a podcast where you have a baby in the background making noises, just like the Timbaland beats. But I'm really excited because actually my brother is in town, JD. He's in town from Victoria. Do you want to say hello?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very honored to be on this pod with some esteemed guests.
Wow.
Who else is coming, man?
Wow. We got some. I feel like I've been on some podcasts before, but very kind of low audience numbers.
Okay, well, this is definitely low audience numbers as well.
And so
actually, you'll fit in. You're gonna fit in right in.
Well, to be with some pros here, it's pretty impressive, and it's cool to check out the studio space that you guys have.
No, we're excited. So Adam O'Brien from Bitcoin Well.
Yo, what's up?
And we got Navin from In the Lab.
Excited to be here, man.
Yeah, actually, to give you some background, so a bunch of us came together to come in the studio and to, I guess, feed off each other, right? Was that the idea, Navin? Like, what was the idea to come in?
It's a group of like-minded individuals and creators that want to push each other to actually go somewhere and be with other people on that journey.
Yeah, and I know, Adam, like you and I were chatting about, jumping on pods together and just getting more into the whole content space. And look, here we are. I jumped on your show this morning.
Dude, I loved it, man. We were live felt like 10 minutes ago.
Literally.
We were live. Yeah, I was stoked. Sean and I were talking about this, I think months before, and then you hit me up and you were like, hey, we're doing it.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm in. Let's go.
So, I think this feeds into really well into my first concept framework, which I actually talk in the book, The Bold Ones, which is the most powerful person in the room is the storyteller. It's the idea that we've seen this throughout history, that the individuals that are able to create their own narratives, the ability to tell stories, like these are the individuals that have shaped the world. In fact, if you look at how we've progressed as a society, as humans, it's really Sue's story. I think that's the thing that differentiates us from animals. And so I want to dive into this subject as well. And the reason why I want to have my brother on is because out of anybody that I know on the planet, he is like a encyclopedia when it comes to sports. He's from soccer to hockey to even basketball. Like he knows every single sport.
No, not so much anymore. I don't want to ruin your intro, but I think soccer and hockey for sure. But the other sports.
No, I see you in the group chat, talking about basketball. He's like the first one. Nick Nurse got fired today. He's like, he's putting in the chat.
Oh, I'll kind of retweet the TSN or,
Right.
ESPN.
So I want to talk about this because, I think, we talk a lot about this in terms of sports and the relevance of sports. And, the one thing that the NBA does really well, it's able to tell its own stories. It's able to create its own narrative. And, here living in Edmonton, obviously we're a hockey city. The playoffs are on right now. The Oilers are in the playoffs. Of course, there's a buzz in the city. Yet, for some reason, it's still, like, globally, no one knows about hockey. Connor McDavid, the greatest player to ever live. Let's be honest. Okay, Wayne Gretzky, number one. Connor McDavid, number two. That guy has 1 million followers on Instagram. Yeah. It's an embarrassment. Why is this the case?
Well, I think it's partly because hockey's a very insular sport. And I think it's becoming sort of increasingly insular. And that's because hockey has done itself a disservice. It's a very expensive game to get involved with at the grassroots level. And so by the time that these players get to the elite stages, they're surrounded by people that are very like-minded, have very kind of similar upbringings. I think hockey nowadays, in order to play it, especially at the elite levels, you come from sort of upper middle class or even wealthier backgrounds. And a lot of these players, they don't really read much about the world. They're sort of kind of groomed to become elite hockey players from a very young age. And
But I disagree with that because I think the fact that I agree that it's an elite sport.
Yeah.
But I would also say that the NBA is an elite sport.
The difference, though, is like in terms of barrier to entry, right? Basketball, everyone can play. You know, you can argue that many NBA players don't come from wealthy backgrounds. They come from, you know, it's a completely diverse game.
But in order to make the
hockey.
NBA, you have to be 8 feet tall. To me, it isn't like it's not a game. We say it's a game for everyone. Steph Curry changed the game of basketball. Of course, you can shoot. He's still 6'3".
Yeah. Well, so that you know, there's always examples like in the NBA. Like if you're an elite athlete, you've got a chance to play, you know, professional sports one day. But I think, you know, you look at the NHL, like if you were to kind of go around Edmonton right now and kind of look at the elite hockey players, they probably have very similar upbringings. They're in hockey camps from age 7, 8 in the summertime. Their parents have really groomed them to be kind of professional players. It's become kind of this elite hothouse of players, and it becomes very like insular. If you walk around like any rink, you'll probably see, you know, the same group of executives that are trying to kind of mine the next group of hockey players, and they want to make sure that they all think the same way. They're sort of almost forced not to stand out. And I think that's really I think it's a barrier to entry issue with hockey, right? And it's becoming more and more like that because it's becoming more insular. I remember, you know, at the height of the pandemic, during, you know, the big Black Lives Matter protests after the death of George Floyd, and there was another shooting in Wisconsin. There was that time where the NBA players actually were thinking, we're not going to play tonight, right?
That.
Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, there's a shooting in Wisconsin. They said they're not going to play. And, you know, the NHL, like everything, they were sort of responsive rather than proactive, right? So a group of their players were like, maybe we shouldn't play. But it wasn't really a priority until some of the players, mostly of color, actually stood up and said, no, we're not going to play. But they did ask one of the coaches of the Flyers at the time, Alain Vigneault. It's like, oh, like, what are your thoughts on, you know, what's happening in this country and the race issues? And Alain Vigneault's like, you know, I'm coaching this team 24 hours a day. I don't really know what's going on. And that's, to me, like, it sort of embodies sort of like the attitude that people in hockey, especially at the elite levels, have.
Inward looking rather than...
Absolutely,
Well,
they're inward looking. So, yeah. And so, you know, there are some signs that might be changing. I think the NHL, especially some of the sponsors around the NHL, are trying to change that. You know, you put on...
Well, I was gonna say, because like the NBA does a very good job at that. And I know, Navin, you follow this. You work with the NBA. Like, you guys work with brands related to the NBA. And they're not as insular, and they're able to tell their stories in better ways, right? Like,
my biggest thing is when you say culture, like there's no culture around hockey in the NHL.
Right.
It's not there. NBA, it's 3 things. It's fashion, it's music, and then it's the personalities. You got Russell Westbrook, you got LeBron, you got these loud people.
Yep.
Then on the flip side, you have Connor, the best player in the world, in my opinion, hands down. 0 personality.
Yeah.
So there's no way to relate. Even in his commercials, it's tough to like find a way to relate to him. But then you got LeBron, these guys who are coming out with sneakers and they're on pause and they're on the barbershop talks and they're in your face, and then they're connecting with so many other kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's they make it more global also with what's Adam Silver.
Yeah.
Like, he does such a good job, like I said, top down, leading the organization, opposed to the NHL guys who are...
Well, you've seen the NHL almost like PK Subban was almost, it seemed like, trying to be that.
He was the only one.
And the league was like, no, what are you doing? Turn this off.
Exactly.
Turn this guy off. It's like a
Exactly.
bunch of, you know, old school mentality that really probably don't want to think outside the box. It's no different than, like, you know, the old school corporates. They haven't faced adversity and they don't know how to respond to this coming wave of the new culture. And they never thought about brand. They've thought about posture. They've thought about process. They've thought about how do I look? How does this make me look? And like what we just talked about, they're dunking on innovation, right?
Yeah.
They don't want that innovative spirit.
Right.
I almost think like Don Cherry, for, you know, he started in sort of the late 80s and he just only came off air like in 2019.
Yep.
Right?
Come off, was he forced off?
Well, he was forced off,
Yeah.
because of his comments, which was coming, right? Like, year after year, there's always...
That's just it. Like,
Yeah.
the NBA, I feel like if a controversial figure says something, they're leaning into it.
Absolutely,
they're like,
yeah.
they're either
They support
for it or
them.
against it, but they're like, yo, this was something that got views, this is something
Yeah.
that exposed our brand to more people. We're here for it. Don Cherry says something that, like, I mean, we won't get into that conversation, but like it was something that the NHL just tried to sweep under the rug, like they've kind of always done.
Yeah, I think like it was a problem, I think, for Hockey Night in Canada because, you know, I think there's a certain segment of the population that watches Hockey Night in Canada and they really like value what Don Cherry says.
Yep.
And so, like I say, if you go to any rink around Canada, there's still executives that sort of prayed at the altar of Don Cherry and sort of believed in everything that he said. He valorized a lot of qualities that are very kind of traditional, very conservative. You know, some of them are very honorable, like you stand up for your team, you don't like celebrate goals big. That's what Bobby Orr used to do. Some admirable things, but I think there's a groupthink that sort of would tend to happen, especially amongst like that generation of people in hockey. And that became the pervasive culture, which is very kind of destructive towards new people trying to come into the game or people that want to think differently. And, you know, there is actually a hockey culture, I think, but it's not like the most welcoming or, you know, happy type of thing. Like, so for instance, like there's a podcast, you guys have probably heard of it, Spitting Chicklets.
Yeah,
I would argue that.
Yeah, it's super popular pod.
So yeah, it's hosted
Don't
by.
listen to it, but I know it's
Yeah.
I know it's super popular.
Well, so yeah, it's like probably one of the most popular hockey podcasts, but it gives you an insight into hockey culture. And, you know, the hosts are former players. So Ryan Whitney, who used to play for the Oilers and Pittsburgh Penguins, amongst other teams, and Paul Bissonnette, right?
Yep.
And, you know, to be honest, like if you listen to it, they are funny guys. They tell stories about the game. But, you know, a lot of their attitudes around hockey are they're
bro
not
culture.
Yeah, it's bro culture, right?
I've never listened to the show, but
it
I
is bro
assume.
culture, right? So they talk about like.
By the way, there's like 4 bros on here.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just seen it.
But yeah, they talk a lot about sort of like off ice stories that probably wouldn't be kosher in a lot of circles.
Yeah.
But they sort of glamorize that. And, you know, you sort of see now with hockey, it's having this kind of reckoning around its culture with the Hockey Canada scandal, with the 2018 World Junior team. And there's a gang rape involved that they're still investigating. There's a Kyle Beach situation where he was a player on the 2010 Blackhawks where he was abused by one of their trainers. And, you know, they're still investigating all of these things. There's been really no ramifications to come out of these issues. But it sort of shows you, it's sort of like the Catholic Church. There's like this very kind of powerful kind of cloak around these things.
Well, I'm going back to the concept. The most powerful person in the room is the storyteller. You know, I think we forget sometimes that sports is entertainment. It is entertainment at the end of the day, and you have all these athletes. They're athletes, but they're actually entertainers at the end of the day. And it's a business. And so if you guys want to fix the NHL, what would you do to go off and fix it in order so that it's actually a relevant game? And this is important because today hockey is competing not only with other sports, but it's competing against anything on Instagram, House of Highlights, Twitch, like Speed and Kai and all these guys. They're competing with all this. So, like, how would you advise the NBA, the NHL?
Just empower creation. And go make the Netflix documentary that the PGA just did, the F1's doing, and tennis just did. That's all you need to do.
Right.
It will change the whole landscape of the game, in my opinion.
Wow. So the
short term
Netflix
for sure.
Short term, yeah. Not saying.
And then they have to embody it and they have to embrace it. They have to continue on. I think that's the last step to your ultimate brand shift. Is like, okay, let's get all these things in place. Let's empower creation. Let's empower our personalities to come out and do something. And then let's kick it off with the Netflix documentary. With this,
we need a Netflix doc on the NHL.
Yo, Netflix can save the NHL.
Yeah. But seriously, like, how many of us watched the F1 documentary? I wasn't a fan of F1 before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. Everybody tells me about it.
It's amazing.
And is the reason why so many people are into F1 now, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
But
F1 trading cards for the first time hit record sales. Like I know there's I haven't watched it nor do I follow the sport, but I know that like a perfect condition trading card of the best driver sold for like $500,000 at the or something crazy, which is like unheard of.
But did that show come out, F1 come out during a time, like the first season come out where it was like, you know, every single year as the years goes by, the world gets more fragmented. And I kind of feel like, you know, it came out at a time where we were all kind of watching it, and now I don't know.
Pandemic time.
What the impact of the tennis one, did it really have a halo effect? I don't know.
I think it's had a bit of an effect.
Oh,
I
yeah?
mean, it just came
Okay.
out like it's an interesting concept because they're following they're going to release them kind of throughout the season. So I think the first series kind of followed the Australian Open.
Yeah.
So the next series is going to kind of be released prior to the French Open. But for instance, my beloved Glennis, who's here as well, we're not huge tennis fans, but we watched the Breakpoint documentary. And now, right after that, their Australian Open matches. And we're like, oh, like what's going on with Novak Djokovic, who was, a big focus of the first season, or the first series, right? So it does sort of promote personalities.
So
It's probably a little bit less about like the Netflix doc, but even like you look at boxing too, and like this creator boxing segment that's happening. Like I know for my wife, like I've been a fan. I myself I've been like training boxing on and off since like 2016, 2017. I love the sport. My wife, Logan Paul, is fighting. I want to go. I'm bringing my wife with me. We go to England. We go to the thing. She's in the press conference. She's like, whoa, this is crazy.
yeah.
We go to the fight. She loves it. Now her and I will sit on the couch together and buy the pay-per-view and watch like Ryan Garcia, for example. Or we're
Saturday.
that's it. That's
And
why
you know
it's on my mind. But it's
ahead.
like it's less, we kind of pigeonholed it to Netflix, but it's more that, like you said, creator aspect. Someone from a different circle brought the sport in.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying about diversity, and voila, we have my wife, this like she's never even looked at a boxing glove until like someone else introduced her to it, right? And now she's a fan of the sport. We've gone to like the unified events here. It's crazy how one small shift and then the follow-up of that shift can really
Yeah.
I bought every single Jake Paul.
Dude, it's so
Jake
entertaining.
Paul fight. It's crazy.
You got to support, man.
I've
Yeah.
been to a couple. They're awesome. They're dynamite.
Yeah, well, you've been to it. I mean, that's another level. Like, I don't know. I've watched every single fight, and I'm interested because you know why? Because I'm interested in the story.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the grander narrative. What am I doing? It's entertainment at the end of the day.
I think like a couple other things that I'd probably do with hockey is you guys have this enthusiasm for the Netflix and the personalities. I think there's simple things the NHL could do. For instance, like they have not gone to the Olympics because a lot of the owners are kind of very insular thinking. They're very like kind of isolationist. They want to like do what's best for my specific business in Carolina
though,
or in
right?
Dallas. Very short term. And so it sort of missed out on opportunities to really brand that game internationally, right? So like when the NHL went to the Olympics in Japan, or when it went to the Olympics in Italy, or even Russia, like Russia's kind of blacklisted now, but there were opportunities really for people around the world to see it, and even within Canada or North America, where we may have had a chance to see hockey, may not have been interested. It's actually one of those things that can sort of help kind of have 15 million people, 20 million people in Canada kind of watch something, right?
But are people still watching the Olympics? Like,
I think-
how did the last Olympics do?
Well, so you do wonder.
I thought I got.
Yeah, partly because I think
because the product sucked.
Yeah, because
The
if the
product was
NHL
good.
if the NHL players are there,
Best
I
on
think-
best, man.
Exactly. I think the broadcasters in Canada will really big that up, right? I think the fact that the last two Olympics, Tokyo and Beijing, were both sort of played in sort of empty arenas, or there weren't very many international travelers. But I think the NHL not going to Beijing was a massive buzzkill, at least in Canada, for those Olympic Games. And it's a way to sort of like grab kind of people that may not be interested in hockey to watch. So for instance, like Jonathan Toews, he's played his last game with the Chicago Blackhawks. Glennis is not a huge hockey fan, I would say, but she knows who Jonathan Toews is because he was part of that 2010 Olympic team. Same thing with Sidney Crosby. Like I think a lot of people may not watch NHL games, but they know like he had that special moment at the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver.
Okay, so you're on the Olympics front. I have some Netflix personalities.
Yeah.
I like this. I want to switch topics a little bit. Staying on this idea that the most powerful person in the room is a storyteller. I don't know if you guys saw like this week. There's always this stuff coming out in generative AI, but this week it was making the rounds around the AI Drake AI Weekend song. That was actually, I don't know if you guys heard. Did you guys hear it? Did you guys?
I didn't get to hear it. I haven't
fire.
listened to
I
it
haven't
yet.
heard it.
It was
I heard it's pretty like
It's good.
it tricked a lot of people.
Yeah.
it tricked a lot of people, and so it really brought up this interesting question, which is, can AI art or AI artists, or even like you can talk about AI sports athletes, can they really make an impact? Will we really listen to an AI Drake or an AI Weekend? Because the one thing that's missing from that, in my opinion, it is missing the story. It's missing the soul, and that's the whole thing with AI. It's amazing. It's efficient. It's really great, but it misses that soul. And I think part of the reason why we connect in terms of music is we connect with that artist at the end of the day. But I don't know, what do you got those thoughts? Well, let me start with Navin because he heard the track.
I thought the track was fire, to be honest.
Okay.
And shout out to Ghostwriter on TikTok. Whoever set it up was amazing. But this is an interesting topic.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have seen some Twitch streamers who do something similar, where they're not actually streaming themselves, but they're actually characters on the screen. So they're wearing, whether it's a VR headset or they're wearing an actual suit. And people are tuning in. Millions of people are watching them play a video game or just interact around their house or ask them questions and talk to them. And I feel like that's a beginning to what this could be. That's why I do think an AI artist can survive, because you're going to put out great tracks. And I don't think that many people actually want to go to a concert and be able to interact with these artists, because a lot of people don't go to concerts. So if you're just hitting out fire track after fire track with a dope voice, cool face, cool brand behind it, I think it'll pop off.
I think there's a cap there, though, and the reason I do is because as humans, the human condition is mistakes, and that's it, right? If you want to boil down the difference between humans and computers, it's that we could do the same thing 100 times and get 100 different results. You type it, like if you push F on the keyboard, 100% of the time, gonna just get Fs on the page, right? That's it. And I think that as humans, we want to see that unique experience, and a robot probably will be hard pressed to give you a unique experience. And like you think about like what drives value in the world, it's the rarest. Like you put Pokemon cards. Some of the rarest ones are the ones where there's a misprint on the card, and you've got this perfect first edition Charizard and a perfect first edition Charizard that's got a thicker stamp, and because the printer messed up and was doing it, it's like that one is the most rare. That's the most valuable. So I think, will they survive? Yeah. AI art, AI content, it's all going to survive. It's all going to thrive, but it will be capped. And the ultimate humans that create art that have the human condition, that relatability, because whether or not a bunch of robots watch your stuff makes no difference. And humans relate to the human condition. So I think humans still have the upper hand.
I like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
I kind of feel the same way. Like if you watch, a big performance, like a Super Bowl performance, or a concert that airs on TV, and you sort of see lip syncing, it becomes like a huge scandal. Kind of, that this person is lip synced, or that it's not like an authentic representation of sort of that art. So yeah, I think like there's probably a role for AI. Like you look back to like 10 years ago, like when T-Pain and like auto-tune was sort of like the big thing.
But T-Pain was still on the track. That's different.
Yeah, but
it's his altered voice, but it's still on the track.
It's true, but it's sort of like a little bit of a technological wrinkle.
yeah, well, the AI thing was still Drake's voice.
Yeah, but he didn't approve of it.
But I can sort of see these tracks kind of becoming kind of like one and done, one hit wonders, or like sort of like fleeting fleeting kind of ditties, right? That'll sort of be released. You'll get TikTok viral hits, and then people will move on. Whereas the true artists that sort of create something visceral, something that you can feel, those are going to stand the test of time, right?
And then follow it up and get involved. Like, when you had a one-hit wonder, your next call was to a manager to get you on the talk show, to get you on, to get you some followers, to get you like, you release a book. What do? Book signing, book signing, book signing, book signing, right? To get in front of people.
Right.
It's like, I got this great book and it's awesome. Here you go. And then end, no good, right? I got this great book, and then come see me and come talk to me and I'll sign your book. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm doing that. And then you see him and you're like, oh yeah, that's sweet.
To me, music is interesting because do we listen to music because we like the music, or do we listen to music because we know lots of people like that music?
Oh, we like how it makes us feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Everyone has a different feeling with it. That's why we all listen to different genres, right? I think it's a very individual kind of experience. I have to admit, like when I listen to music, the lyrics aren't really the first thing that I listen to. It's really kind of how the track's produced, how does it make me feel viscerally, and then maybe, if it really makes me feel a certain way, I'll the lyrics might resonate even more. But I don't know about you guys.
No, totally. Like it's normally for me, it's like the beat or like the BPM. Like what does that mean? How does that make you feel in the moment? And then the lyrics are like actually secondary most of the time, to be honest.
I think about like I'm not a big concert guy. But NF is coming to town in August.
Yeah.
I love NF, right?
Sorry, who's that?
Come on. He's like this like white rapper.
Okay.
Okay.
He's wicked though. And his music's fine. His music's pretty good. I would say it's above average and it's improving. But what I like most about him is I like his background, right? He doesn't swear on tracks. He doesn't want to. He's got this Christian upbringing, which I resonate with and I appreciate. And he talks about things that that in his mind are out there and that shouldn't be talked about. And that's what I relate with. And the songs, they kind of, in reality, they all kind of sound the same. Like they come from the same spot. They come from the same thing. But that story, that backstory is what's driving me to, spend a couple $100 to go see him for a few hours.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting take too, just on the AI stuff, where I think it could be dope, is Drake and Tupac. The Weeknd and Biggie, and they're bringing those guys back in the voice. I think that can pop off.
I heard
Yeah,
I heard a Tupac Biggie track together. It was pretty good. AI Tupac, AI Biggie.
Cool.
But I'm kind of curious. Like you talk about one of the things that companies or entrepreneurs try to do now is sort of create a community, right?
Yep.
So like Adam's mentioned with AI generated music, like are you kind of creating that community, that sort of a relatability, that attachment, that emotional connection to an artist?
That's what I mean. I don't think I don't know yet if an AI artist can be able to sell out an arena.
Well, let's think about it this way. AI artists will be 100% product, right? The product will be fire every single time. And we just sat here and poo-pooed on the NHL for having a really, really, really good product and no distribution or no community
100%.
behind it. And is AI music going to be the same thing without that community?
Yeah. I mean, and I think like the companies and, experiences that people have, like what is allowing those to thrive is like, that sense of community, right? Like, I think like, you talk about things like, I don't want to talk about NFTs because it's a whole different topic, but while NFTs may have, kind of tanked in terms of values, I think the people that really are still in that space, one of the reasons is because there's some community that's sort of formed around it.
Yep.
And you kind of wonder whether with artificial intelligence, I mean, I'm sure there'll probably be some subgenre, some sub-community that still develops, but it's sort of harder to generate that.
Well, I'm going to move on to the next subject, but the last thing I was going to say about and you mentioned the NFTs. I think this artificial intelligence space is actually going to bring NFTs back, because when you have unbelievable abundance, you need scarcity, and NFTs create the best, opportunity to have scarce products or assets. So, anyways, we got a couple. We have to deep dive on
podcast.
NFT. That's a separate
That
podcast.
is the NFT train. Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted this chapter in my book, but we just kind of ran out of room in the book. But it's related to this concept in the book around hot streaks and this lightning strike. Is this idea of seizing your moment, like understanding when is your moment and maximizing that sort of window. And actually, one of the first ideas that I had about this idea of seizing your moment, like capitalizing on this window of opportunity that you have, was a conversation that I had with Harmon B. Like the DJ. Yeah. So Harmon and I, we were sitting together, and we were watching this group, this like choir band. I think they're called like they're here in Edmonton. They're called the Melendez brothers.
Millennia?
No, the Melendez brothers. Anyways, couple brothers, 3 brothers, awesome singers, and they're kind of like at that point they were like a choir band, right? And Harmon B looked at them and he was like, "You see these kids right now? This one kid, he's like the next Michael Jackson. They're amazing." He's like, "But you see, if they don't capitalize on this moment right now, they're going to be the next. They're going to be just a cover band for the rest of their life. They need the right management. They need something around them." And he told me that like 5 years ago. And he's like, I actually approached their parents to like manage them, and they said, "No, we want to, we're going to do this ourselves." And I actually kind of see them now, and they weren't able to, like, he was right. And it's like, they weren't able to capitalize this moment, this opportunity that they were in. They weren't able to double down. And he gave me these stories of, when Lady Gaga came to Edmonton, she paid to be at like Rum Jungle so that she could get on that stage. Like, they maximize these moments. And I look, throughout history, even in sports, and we're talking about sports, like I'm fascinated with these moments of like, Tom Brady coming in when Drew Bledsoe was out, and he just takes that opportunity, runs with it, and he becomes the GOAT. There's so many moments of that happens. I think that helped happen with Tony Romo too. It happened with Bledsoe and Romo too. I think Bledsoe was out and Romo came in, and he became a legend. I'm sure you see it in soccer all the time where somebody comes in, 75 minutes into the game, scores a goal, and it's like
happening right now in Edmonton with Stuart Skinner. right?
Yeah.
Right.
If the Oilers go on to
Yeah,
win
good
this
point.
year, that's like
Right.
he is the man, right?
Right.
He's getting that trophy.
He's taking
Yeah.
this. So, and I look at it like, when do you know it's your moment to double down? It's like, I'm just going to invest everything to make this moment pop because I see it happening. Like, I don't know if you guys have experienced that in your life or if you've seen examples of it. I'm just so fascinated by this concept.
I feel like I'm living the moment right now.
Okay, yeah. Tell me
Like, 'cause
why.
for me, it's
Tell me
like
why.
same concepts, like here today, gone tomorrow. We live in the social media digital age where you can be hot today and tomorrow your whole life you're just done as a creator, right?
Yep.
So for me, it's like doubling down. It's like we got the studio.
Yeah.
We're creating this podcast. We're doing stuff all over the world. We're creating content. And I feel like I'm in that moment of like, if it's not now, when is it going to be?
Right.
So I feel like maybe in a year from now, I'm going to give you a better answer, but I feel like I'm living that experience like literally right now.
I don't think it ever goes away. Like you think about, like I've been in this volatile crypto, specifically Bitcoin industry for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've been doubling down, every 6 months since then. And then like people hear about me in like 2020. It's like, oh, you're so lucky. You got in 10 years ago. I can't believe it. Like blah, blah, blah. And one of my dad's friends said that to him. And he's like, Adam's not lucky. Like Adam's heard no more times than all of us in
Yeah.
this room combined.
Yeah.
Still goes out, gets shot in the face, smacked around, and then goes out and does more. And I think you got to double down. It's like, when do you know it's your moment? It's always your moment. You
Yeah.
got to keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. And then finally something clicks and then you know where your direction is.
Right.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree. I mean, I think one of the classic ones is in that Simpsons episode where Bart says, "I didn't do it." I think that was the expression. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then so remember he like went on all the talk shows, was on Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
And they all wanted him to say that one line.
Right.
And then he did it. So he got his like 15 seconds of fame and it never capitalized into anything, right? Sort of like went back to being an elementary school student. I think like I think nowadays like there's opportunities to sort of do these lightning strikes from your own basement, right? Like you think about, there's a guy in England, he's a YouTuber that's now actually become like a chairman of a football club, Spencer Owen. I've talked to you about Spencer before.
Spencer
So,
Owen, yeah.
so Spencer FC. So essentially, he was...
What? He's the chairman?
Well, so
Of,
interesting story.
shit.
But yeah, so essentially what he was, like he started his YouTube just kind of being like a FIFA video game content creator. And so would put out FIFA videos, would do like manager mode or career mode and sort of like document that. And then throughout kind of over many years, like he got...
Didn't he do like games where like he would film like games with his friends?
Yeah, so this is kind of what happened. So he kind of developed a little bit of a following on YouTube. And then he got hired by a couple of media companies that were in the space at the time. And his profile just kept getting bigger and bigger. And so he was really somebody that really enjoyed playing football, talking about football. Football, I say soccer, but I mean soccer, but that's what I mean, I guess. You also have to caveat that when you're talking to, depending on the audience. But yeah, so he really kind of went up the chain in terms of football, in terms of followers. And then, he just decided with his brothers one day, who were also content creators, and they said, why don't we just like create our own club? And so they created their club. It's called #United. And they basically started just playing in like Sunday League. And it was just a group of friends that would just play and they'd film their games. They'd have all these cameras filming their games. They'd have play-by-play commentary. And they would get like, 500,000 views on these like rec games. And kind of like seeing the experience with that. One of the appeals of the English football system is that you can start a team at the very bottom and kind of work your way kind of gradually up to the top. And so he's really kind of parlayed that early kind of YouTube just commenting on FIFA into, this kind of clairvoyant, upward trajectory. And now #United is actually in the Football League structure. They keep getting promoted because, they've got a massive following, especially for, compared to the other clubs lower down in the pyramid. And yeah, he's killing it. It would not surprise me to see him kind of being a chairman of, a team in the Premier League maybe one day.
Wow.
Because I think he's
That's
developed
crazy.
those skills. He's developed the contacts. He's developed credibility now.
Yep.
He's developed kind of this whole media portfolio kind of around the club. And that's really just kind of coming from literally his basement.
Well, and the cool thing is he's one hire away from that Premier League, right? Like,
Yeah.
like if he can afford to pay whoever the superstar of the year of the decade is
Yeah.
to come and join his club, boom, that's it. Right?
Yeah. Oh,
There's your
absolutely.
ticket, which is so crazy that it's actually like you kind of the concept. It's the story, it's the following, it's the community that you've built, and then you can go out and buy the talent.
Absolutely. I think the following is really what has helped propel him. And the thing is with football, it's such an international game, right? So if you're playing FIFA, there might be a kid in like Indonesia, or there might be a kid in like Kenya that's interested in this. He's going to want to watch what's happening, and he becomes a fan. And he's like, oh, hashtag United. I'll support them. I'll buy like a kit or something like that. And yeah, I think they've profited big time. And what's interesting is actually one of the, there's a Chelsea player who actually invested in the team as well. So he's building he's building up a lot of, good cred, and
Right.
it sort of shows like how you can go from innovator space into, the cloistered boardrooms of these big clubs just through kind of like seizing on those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I bring this up is because I also feel like I'm sort of in this moment where, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be like this hot for this long. But then I'm also like, I want to disrupt myself. Like I want to like try new venues. I want to try new things. And so I'm fascinated with it because you don't want to miss your moment. And you also want to create more moments, right? Yeah. You want to create more hot streaks in your life. And so I'm obsessed with this idea. And I look at people in their life as like, what was that moment? What was that catalyst that sort of propelled people? How did they take advantage of that time that they were just, they got in the game and then they just never let go. Yeah. No, super fascinating. So actually this dovetails well into the next question I have. And it's a question that I've always thought about because I think about LeBron. So LeBron spends $1 million on his body. And because his body is like, that's the reason why he's been so prolific in the game of basketball. So I want to ask you guys, if you had another $1 million just lying around, what would you invest that money in?
I want to say I would optimize my body just like LeBron, because I talk to Andika about this all the time.
Okay.
I don't think I would spend the
she's a chiropractor, so she's like,
I'm not an NBA athlete.
What does that mean to spend $1 million on your body?
Definitely wouldn't be $1 million, but like I would have like full-time chef.
Okay.
I'd have my cryo. I'd have my like hyperbaric air chamber. I'd all that stuff to optimize myself as an entrepreneur. Like deep sleep every single night.
Wow.
Waking up with my food, massages. Like I would optimize myself because I know like when my mind's good, when I'm sleeping well, when I'm recovered, that's when I'm most optimal. Well, LeBron sleeps like sometimes 15 hours a day.
Right.
Oh, wow.
There's a reason he's so much better than everyone else. It's not just his skill and talent, it's the recovery, right? Not everyone has obviously the ability to put $1 million into
or sleep
recovery.
15 hours a day.
But if you think about there's a bunch of podcasts and books on like optimization hacks.
Yep.
Entrepreneurs as an individual, how do you get ahead? And I'm always trying to think like, what is the hack that I could try to next? That's why I got the Whoop. That was like my next hack was, okay, I need to track my sleep. How much deep sleep? How much REM? What am I waking up? I wake up 6 times last night. Why? Because I had 2 glasses of wine. Like I try to that's like where my mind is.
Right.
So like that's how I would spend.
An extra $1 million lying
maybe
down.
Maybe 100K would only
around.
be spent, and I'd put 900 in my bank account.
Yeah. What about you? What you had $1 million just lying around. What would you spend it on?
Yeah, like first thought was Bitcoin, obviously, but then I remembered, Bitcoin is simply a function of our energy and of our time. And so if you take that one level down, I would buy more time. It's just like you said. It's like I'm not cooking. Right already, like you're never gonna see me in anything other than these black pants and this black shirt. I got 30 of these and 8 of these. Yeah. That's like I got no decisions to make in the morning. It's out, same socks, same underwear. I know what I'm doing.
You got the Steve Jobs drip now.
Well,
the 2023 version of it.
But I would definitely look to buy more time. I would outsource anything that is not my thoughts. And if that's
a good point.
Editing, right? Like bless you guys, you came in. I dropped all this camera gear off. I had to go run and speak somewhere. I come back. We got all these cameras set up. So
that's shout out to Neve.
Shout out Neve.
Yeah, big shout out to Neve, bro.
No cameras on Neve. She's behind. She's like just unreal. Like if I could have someone that just handled everything. I was actually thinking too. Like I spent this morning 45 minutes driving from my house to my office, pick up my cameras, bring them here from this studio to where I speak, from where I spoke, back here, all before 10:30.
Yep.
I'm like, man, that's 45 minutes where I could have been answering some emails, I could have been filming, I could have been working, and I'm back to the car. So I'm hiring that out, right? It's the setup. setup, like you said, eating, cooking, cleaning, all of that stuff. Man, if there was a pill that I could just and not eat anymore for the rest of my life, 100%.
Wow. Yeah, it's called Ozempic.
Eating.
I think you take that.
Shout out Ozempic.
It's trending right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it would be. I would buy time so that you can find more moments and double down.
Okay, what about you? What do you think?
That's a tough question because I have to say, like, I'm really enjoying life right now. It's a hard question to answer because my family's here as well.
Yeah, your wife.
So
She's like
yeah.
watching
And
you
you're
like,
like,
oh.
it's like, I'm gonna buy my yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd buy them whatever like my family thankfully is not very kind of materialistic. We're very happy with what we have. It's a really hard question. I think like for me, I definitely like would make sure kind of my family has what they need. I think like I know, but
Extra million, right?
Extra.
Everything's taken care of. Now
Flying
this is
around.
the extra.
But
They already have what they need.
okay, maybe we'd outsource certain tasks, but I would even say that, for me, I have a busy job. I like work in the hospital. I still like doing kind of those nitty gritty kind of jobs, right? So whether it's changing a diaper, whether it's cleaning dishes, whether it's cooking, I actually kind of like that. I get a lot of fulfillment out of it.
Yep.
It's actually a good opportunity to even listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
like where you don't get those times otherwise throughout the day. So yeah, $1 million. I think it'd probably just kind of go back into the house in terms of educational opportunities for my son, maybe educational opportunities for.
Okay, just give.
I love
How is
You're
that
not
so
doing it.
different?
You're not doing anything with that $1 million.
Yeah.
How
Like,
can I
we
give
need more
it away?
time, bro. I want more content. He's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, man,
maybe another
it's
bed just to get.
gotta buy some groceries.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I live in
that. I love
in
that.
BC, so yeah, cost of living.
I-
$1 million doesn't go a long ways these days. But yeah, it is a bit of a hard question to answer. I mean, I think there's things you can always optimize in terms of sleep, in terms of your health. But I think like ensuring that your family is looked after and like ensuring that you get those opportunities to just be with your family. I think that's hopefully.
No, that's a safe answer. That's a safe answer with your
Yeah.
family here in your presence.
Yeah.
Where's the trap door?
Yeah, for me, I think at the end of the day, it is content, because I think in the future, building your own brand equity is going to be the most important asset in the world. Like being able to have people around you that support you is really important. Like building trust and authenticity and building a relationship with folks. And I think content is the greatest way of doing that. Content creates luck at the end of the day. So, we talk about the power of distribution. Like, listen, like half the conversation that we're having about distribution, I think it's really, really important. So I would just double down on content because I think it's first of all, I love it. And second of all, I think it's just, you can change somebody's life with content, right? It is the most exponential asset in the world. The fact that we can take this particular piece of video and we can put it somewhere and it can go around the world and somebody in Bangladesh can watch it and be like, that was awesome. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
The power
That
of
is
content.
crazy.
It's pretty remarkable.
That's crazy power.
Yeah, like you could like there's so many like sub communities, right? So if you feel like you're unique in the world, there's always somebody around now, right? And I guess that content sort of helps make the world a lot smaller, right?
Yep. So the last question or the last concept that I think I want to bring up is this idea of the age of infinite leverage. It relates to this idea of content. So the age of infinite leverage means that today, as an individual, we have more power than ever before. We can get freelancers from anywhere around the world, remote workers, contractors, creators, influencers. They're at our fingertips. You can leverage agencies, joint ventures, teams, alliances. You can hire a firm to do work. So there's humans. But there's also this AI space, generative AI, you have ChatGPT, you have Midjourney, these platforms that can do work for you at a radically cheaper cost. And then there's content. The ability to tell stories around the world is almost, there are no costs to it. Like the cost of creation, the cost of AI, the cost of code is almost the cost of getting tasks done. The cost is getting dramatically reduced. And so today we are living in the world of infinite leverage, where you can do an extraordinary amount with very little resources. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this? And like, how are you guys leveraging this in what you guys are doing?
So for me, I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this on camera, but anyways.
Yeah, don't say it on camera.
For some of the brands, we do we have email marketers, we have guys that write copy or social ads for us and stuff. And that's all been replaced by ChatGPT.
Wow.
And it's been replaced by me.
Replaced.
It's been replaced by me because now in them having a salary or set amount of hours per project basis, I'm literally going into ChatGPT because I'm already telling them what I want.
Yeah.
Right?
You're a prompt engineer.
I'm the prompt for my brand. So I'm going to ChatGPT and learning how to optimize it, telling what I need, and it's spitting out excellent options like clickbait, taglines, headlines for ads. Like I just we send out an email in the lab on Friday. Every Friday we do like motivational emails. All right, so let me try this out. Hey ChatGPT, this is our brand in the lab, basketball focus, blah blah blah. Write me a simple motivational email for our email list. Gave me a beautiful email.
Wow.
Yeah.
Changed 3 words, put it into Klaviyo, sent out.
Infinite leverage.
In less than like 10 minutes, I did that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's to me, it's so interesting where we're still at the cusp of what's going to happen. And I always say this to all of us, we all know this, we need to be in the now. We need to be, just like NFTs, we need to be there now, experimenting, like how Top Shot was. We were there just throwing money to see what was going to hit and learn. And ChatGPT, I paid for the pro because I'm curious. I just want to know what is it going to get me and how much can I optimize with it.
I totally agree with all of that. I would say, though, that infinite leverage comes from the concept that you have something to start with. It didn't take you 10 minutes. It's taken you months
Oh, years.
of learning how to prompt a robot to get the result that you want. And that, to your point, came from years of prompting humans. And so I think that that leverage started with some initial concept. And leverage, the point of leverage is making something big with something small, capturing that something big, now that's something small, and then getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And back to what you said about doubling down on yourself, that's it, right? You've been prompting humans for years, and they were slow, they made mistakes, they didn't have all the info. Now you're prompting a robot that's got all the info, that's got absolutely everything they ever need. And it takes 10 minutes, but it takes 10 minutes because you've got 1,000 hours of that practice early on. And then this perfect tool came into your grasp. You're like, this is amazing. This is everything I need. But like me, I'm a horrible trainer. I just think everyone thinks like me, and I'm like, okay, great, go do it. And it's like, why is it done this way? It's like, well, you didn't tell me what to do properly. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. You don't think like me, so obviously not. And so I'm like struggling with AI stuff because I wanted to do it in like it should take 10 minutes, but like I think you're discounting how much work you actually have into that and how far ahead you are from people that just like run up.
It's a really good point he brings up.
It is interesting, but I also disagree in a sense because I think that somebody coming in to a particular industry where they don't have any experience, like a dummy off the street, they can go and prompt ChatGPT and get the experience and the wisdom of the greatest marketing minds in the world.
But think about what he said. He said, hey, we're a basketball brand, we're this and this. If I'm doing this for the first time, write me my newsletter. Right? ChatGPT is going to give me whatever the hell it spits out. Yeah. He's like, we're basketball focused. We're this brand. Here's our URL. Here's how we're focused. Here's our people. He's known exactly what to say. So my first one's going to suck. My second one, if I'm smart, will get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And then I'll end up at pro level where it's like, yo, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes really thoughtfully thinking about what I'm gonna tell you what to spit out, and then you're gonna spit it out perfectly in like 6 seconds.
But don't you think that the gap has closed a
for
little
sure?
bit?
Mm-hmm. Gap's closing,
like in terms of that experience. And if I'm a 30-year, I've been 30 years in the game in the marketing realm, like an intern with a couple years of experience, like because of the technology, the gap is closing a little bit.
Definitely it's closing.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's closing at the same time, and I'll get off the mic here, but I think it's we discount us experience. Like I discount my experience in Bitcoin because this is just natural to me, right? I want to make a Bitcoin wallet, I just go make it. If I told you to go set up a Bitcoin node, you'd be like, I don't know how. Like, bro, I did it 10 years ago. You can do it. There's lots of YouTube videos. You can ask ChatGPT. You'd figure it out.
Yep.
But it would take you a hell of a lot longer than it takes me because you don't have that experience. And I think collectively, when you're a smart, high-performing individual, you produce and discount experience, and that's my experience.
Well, I'll ask you. You're on a pod with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs.
I know. Yeah, I feel a little bit out of my depth.
And age of infinite leverage.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'm in medicine. And so, I think especially like nowadays, like there's kind of a primary care issue. There's an issue with healthcare and like access to healthcare within Canada. So there's kind of ongoing discussions about how AI can actually help in those aspects. It probably deserves a pod on its own. And, there's probably a lot of other programs that can also talk about that issue. But I do see that there's some potential in it. So for instance, if you are a patient, go into a family doctor's office, not sure what's happening to you, but you sort of like describe your symptoms, describe the onset of it. So like you're providing a history to the physician. And then, they can order tests, they can order an x-ray, they can order lab tests. And there's actually groups now that are actually putting in all this data, and they've got big databases in terms of like, if you've got these symptoms, what is your actual diagnosis? Or like if you've got these lab parameters, what's the actual diagnosis? So, we go to medical school, we do a residency, fellowship, whatever, to try and help process that all on the spot. But, like if we're kind of leveraging again, I don't know if I'm using the word leveraging correct in this context, but, like there's people looking into like databases with all these features, and then they're able to sort of figure out what's the most likely diagnosis. So if you think like if you go into a doctor's office and, everyone's really strapped for time, you've got 10 minutes to sort of describe your issues. But, if you can sort of describe everything and the diagnosis kind of comes out right away, physician can sort of agree or disagree with the diagnosis.
Yeah,
give you the
there you go.
And then
That's
there you go.
leverage.
And, like I think radiology is another area where
Yeah.
that might be changing. So for instance, you get an x-ray, there can be some like, it could be this, could be that, a little bit of murkiness in terms of what the diagnosis is. If you've got an AI system that sort of has looked at all these x-rays and can tell you like, oh, it's actually more likely to be pneumonia as opposed to fluid, for instance.
Yeah.
Like you can sort of leverage the AI into using.
And it's already doing that, and I think that's the space that's probably most.
Yeah. But, it can sort of make
ripe
things
for disruption.
Yeah, it can make things a little bit more efficient. It doesn't maybe replace the physician or the, healthcare provider kind of on the spot, but it can definitely be used as an adjunct, right?
So it's interesting. I was at a keynote in Vancouver a couple days ago talking about generative AI, and one of the things that I've been saying, I've been talking about this AI thing for a long time, and I always like bring up this question, will robots take your job? And I've always been really cognizant that there are people in the room that they're like, they're scared of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I always said that robots will never take your job. It just allows you to just double down on your customers and your clients and all that kind of stuff. But something is different here, and actually, I think robots will take jobs. And your job now, your new job, everybody's new job, is to figure out how AI is going to take your job.
Yeah.
Because if you don't figure it out, somebody is going to figure it out for you, and it's not going to be pretty. So we need to figure this out. And I actually think this is the greatest time to live and be in business or be a human because of this age of infinite leverage. That you can figure out how to leverage this AI thing and the talent piece and the crowdsourcers and the creators and the freelancers and the social thing and the creating stories. And now you can do way more. Like, what can you build? Instead of asking the question, how will robots take my job? You need to ask the question, how can I create more? How can I build more? So I think it's an exciting time. So, gentlemen, with that, I just want to thank you so much for coming on Dangerous Ideas. Again, just a reminder, these are concepts and frameworks that will change your life. And I can see already that this is already changing your lives, okay? It's amazing. So, JD, you're going to have the last word because, these guys are going to be on very regularly. But what do you think of the pod? What do you think of the setup? What do you, last words?
Honestly, very kind of inspiring space, people that are creative, really kind of feed off each other.
Yep.
When you're in an inspiring space that has kind of cool view of the city, kind of cool artwork everywhere, people that are kind of sort of primed to create something, I think, it seems kind of like a lab, right? In the lab.
This is the...
Natural, not even paid. How do you pay for that?
In the lab.
In the lab.
But no, it's a beautiful space, and it kind of feels like I'm at, like a CBC studio, but that's been kind of...
defunded, yeah.
Not been funded.
I've been kind of like made a little bit cooler, you know.
Yeah,
like
yeah. No,
artwork,
that's good. No, it's
yeah.
that. No, definitely. We're building something really cool here. It's like the PayPal Mafia. Like it's the PayPal Mafia where you had like Elon
Yeah.
and Reid Hoffman, and you had Peter Thiel and all these people coming together, and they worked in this company, and then they went off and did incredible things. I honestly feel like with Adam and Nav and RJ and Mo and Mazen
Yeah.
and Neve, like we're all gonna like build something incredible.
Kind of
in our
like
business.
Andy Warhol factory, right? So like in the 70s, he'd sort of get all the creatives in New York City into
Right.
his factory.
That's it.
Have these infamous parties. Probably lots of substances being consumed
Yeah.
in those times
Probably
as
wild.
well. But yeah, but I think there's something to be said, like when you get a group of creatives coming together, creating cool stuff. Like I think all throughout history, like in the 1920s in Paris,
Yep.
right? That was kind of like that. 1970s in New York City. And then 2020s here in Edmonton.
And 2023
Canada.
is in Edmonton. There you go.
Here we go.
Well, with that, thank you so much for joining the pod. You can subscribe, rate, follow. We're on every platform now, and we'll check you on the next one. See ya.